Okay, it's 4 o'clock. Should we get going?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Okay, let's call the Parks Commission April 1st, April Fool's Day meeting into order. Why did that? Okay, should we start with the Pledge of Allegiance? There we go.
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
Flag,
United States of America,
America,
to the republic,
Republic, for which it stands,
one
one
nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Okay, can we have a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Laguna.
Here.
Commissioner Marilis,
Here.
Commissioner Okello. Commissioner Okello absent. Commissioner Lomena.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Green.
Present.
Thank you. That's it.
And for the commission, Commissioner Maida had reached out and indicated that he would not be able to make it today.
Thank you.
Okay. But we have a quorum, so we're okay. And I guess at this point, I'll ask if we have any public comment. I think we might have Sid Young, is that right?
Yeah, we do. I do have her hand raised at this moment, so I'm gonna go ahead and unmute her. So these are for items that are not on the agenda. So anything that has to do with none of the items being spoken today, go ahead and unmute her mic. Ms. Young, go ahead and accept my invitation and unmute your mic when you're ready to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sid Young, Moss Beach. I was going to ask permission for to make a presentation at your next meeting because I had one ready for this meeting, but they neglected to put me on the agenda. So could you please be sure to schedule it for the next meeting in 2 months? Neil?
Is that it? Yeah, okay.
That was just, I wanted to make sure that I had an affirmative that I'll be on the calendar in 2 months since we missed this time. And then the other thing I wanted to just say is I read next door a lot and the people in El Granada are extremely concerned about all the eucalyptus in Quarry Park that are, you know, could catch fire and set their homes, adjacent homes on fire. So be really great if you guys could, you know, I know you put some money towards it, but maybe focus on it because we're really in a bad area. Thank you.
Thanks, Sid. Now I'm going to help work with you. Let's go before the
Good.
Midcoast Council and talk about this. And then we'll
Sure.
get back to the commission next 2 months.
Promise? Promise? Thank you.
Promise.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
Thank you.
I
Donna.
do not see any more hand raised, Chair.
Okay, no more public comment. Then let's set the agenda. Do we have a motion to set the agenda? Anyone?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Make a motion to set the agenda.
Okay, all those in favor?
I think when we do it virtually, you got to ask Janet to do a roll call vote.
Okay.
So there is-
Janet, can you do a roll call then to set the agenda?
Commissioner, sure. Commissioner Mene,
Yes.
Commissioner Okello, Commissioner Laguna,
Aye.
Commissioner Green,
Aye.
Chair Marilis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have the Parks Foundation report. Michelle?
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff and guests. Michelle Beasley, Executive Director of the San Mateo County Parks Foundation. Thanks for carving out a little bit of time on your agenda. I just wanted to share just 2 things really quickly. The San Mateo County Parks Foundation received a 2-year grant from the National Environmental Education Foundation specific to Edgewood Park, partnership with the Friends of Edgewood, and it's for the Greengrass Biodiversity Conservation Initiative. So we're very excited to see the work that both Creekside Science and Friends of Edgewood, along with support from San Mateo County Park, are doing to effectively manage the grasslands and eradicate weeds and support the growth of native species. So we're excited about that. And then just as a heads up, we have a fundraising campaign going on right now specific to Coyote Point. We're very excited to be raising a little bit of money for where our home office is located, and specifically looking to support shade shelters in the beach picnic group areas. So we're actively doing that right now. So that's my quick little update. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Michelle?
I have just a quick comment. Just Michelle, I just want to thank you for the notes and just wanted to commend you on the most recent communication that went out from the Parks Foundation. I don't know, it was very like, it was, you know, all the communications are great. It's just like really spirited and positive, and showing a really nice light on the department and the foundation both. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thanks, Commissioner Green. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Michelle. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Michelle.
And okay, I guess we move on to our director's report. Nicholas?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. You know, I'd like to just first open it with also thanking Michelle. We are very fortunate to have a foundation that supports the department and is willing to always support us in all of our endeavors. And Michelle's also just a remarkable sounding board for ideas and ways in which we can provide better services and new types of amenities we can provide. So Michelle has done, in my opinion, a phenomenal job foundation, and we're very fortunate and lucky. So thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Nicholas. Appreciate it.
So first, briefly, it'll be a quick update today. The department is launching the public engagement project for the Forest Health Project at Huddard and Wonder Lake Park. So the Huddard and Wonder Lake Fuel Reduction and Forest Health Project. This project is 402 acres of forest health and fuel reduction between both Huddard and Wonder Lake Park. And so the core objective of the project is to make our forests more resilient, to mitigate catastrophic wildfire risk, to reduce invasive species and lessen the impact and spread of sudden oak death. So we'll be hosting a series of workshops, public virtual workshops on the project and the benefit of the project. We have been working with some of our partners to disseminate information on this, and we'll be pushing a lot of information out via social media on this. This project will represent what we view as the new way we want to be doing these types of projects. So large scale, large acreage, and really having a positive impact on the health of our forests and public safety. So this is a huge project that we will be pushing out to the community and also be informing the commission on going forward. We also held a project kickoff meeting this week on the Eastern Promenade project at Coyote Point. So this is a project that many of you have heard about for a long time, and we're finally getting ready to break ground on this. And so this meeting was focused on schedules and roles and responsibilities, but we're finally making way on this project. It's going to be such an amazing opportunity to provide new services at Coyote and really improve that whole beach area. So really excited to be advancing that project. We also are, we've closed the RFP process for flood park design services, and we have received a number of very strong proposals that we'll be reviewing, evaluating, and eventually interviewing, and then presenting to our Board of Supervisors a recommendation for one of those firms to design and secure the permits for those services and for that park. So Flood Park is a core project for us as a department, and is going to provide really some really great amenities that are unique just to Flood Park, at least at this time. It will have our first all abilities playground. It will have a baseball diamond. It will have multi-use sport fields. So it's really a unique park, and we're really excited about the possibilities and the way we're going to provide services there. And then lastly, Memorial Park is making great ground on all of our improvements there. We'll be opening on Memorial Day weekend, and really excited to be back serving the public down there and having new restrooms and shower facilities, getting to do some great repaving down there. So it's less dangerous to drive on some of those drive aisles if you've been down there before. And then also really upgrading those campsites. So staff down there has done an amazing job, and Mario Nastari, who's been managing that capital project for those restrooms and shower buildings, really deserve credit for the work they've done. So really excited to have Memorial Park up and online in the near future here. So those are the brief announcements that I have with regards to the director's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Eva, do you have any questions for Nicholas?
Sorry, I know there's a way to raise hands and Zoom. I'm sorry. I gotta ask my kids, who are now experts at the tender ages of 6 and 8. Sorry, just quick question and quick comment. Question on the Memorial Park capital project. How goes that against the budget? Are we going to come in under, over?
So it's looking like some of the projects will come in under budget, and some of them we're still working through to identify if we will be on budget or not. But of the 3 main efforts going on right now, we are looking like we will be under budget on at least 2 of those. And then the wastewater treatment plant, which finished earlier last year, ended up going a bit over budget, but part of that, a large part of that had to do with a change in state regulations on how we monitor that system. So we had to add a whole new technological system and monitoring system. So with that comes increasing costs, and so that was something that was unforeseen.
Happens in a good capital project all the time. Totally understand. And just question about, because capital dollars get appropriated in years prior to implementation, like how do you decide if there is surplus? Like what happens to the surplus?
So we will assess the situation and determine what other capital projects may be running over budget and how we can use the savings to meet the needs of those other projects. In the case of Memorial, we are really just finishing the first phase of the overhaul down there. So we still have a water distribution system to work on. We still have at least 8 new restrooms and shower buildings that need to be replaced. And so any savings would be rolled into those future phases.
Great, thank you. And then lastly, I know I remember when I started a commission a while ago, there was a report that had some activity detail about all the parks, because it's wonderful to hear highlights, but it's just I think some of us were interested in keeping an eye on. I know there's not been a lot of in-person programming, but those kinds of metrics. So maybe as we reopen programming, it might be a nice opportunity to revisit something along those lines where we can just see a system-wide view in addition to what the highlights come through and report.
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner. I think that's a great idea, and we're hoping that we will be able to return some of those in-person services this summer, and really hopeful that we'll be able to return to some variation of pre-pandemic operations in the near future, which include the amenities that we are able to provide access to. So we would be happy to bring that back at that time.
Yeah, whatever form builds on what you already do for regular business, I'm sure would be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Nicholas, Do you think it'd be worthwhile to have a site visit for the commission to Memorial when Memorial's about to open, or when it does open?
Yeah, Commissioner Merrilees, you do not have to twist my arm to do site visits. I would be delighted to have the opportunity to do another one of those. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It will allow to show the commission the great work that's been done, as well as really explain why we need to make sure we're doing a phase 2 and possibly even a phase 3. We'll have to work through some of the logistical issues. There's definitely no cell phone service down there, and some other challenges, but we can definitely make that happen.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe not a meeting there. That might be tough, but just a site visit maybe prior to our next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Commissioner, I would be absolutely happy to, and again, for the commission, I am happy to organize any site visit to any park to, talk about projects or services that we provide.
Since that project has been so long and so expensive, it'd be nice, I think, for everybody to kind of see what it is that we do. Yeah, so maybe we could, before our next meeting, we could go take a trip down there for an hour or so.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Great. Okay.
Neil?
Yeah.
Oh, I had my hand up. Yeah, you know what? Commissioner Merriles stole a little bit of thunder. Chair Calderon, thanks for putting this in all perspectives, and it's going to make a clear path of how easier things are going to get. And we are definitely not falling asleep behind the wheel. We are in our lane. We're on our way to our destination. It has taken a little bit longer, but I think we're not veering off the road. A couple of questions I had, and one is kind of a little personal from friends and family. Are folks able to convene at any, like Coyote Point, and have barbecues, or that's not been allowed yet?
Yeah, Commissioner, so drop-in pickup sites are available. There are certain restrictions on those activities, but but our drop-in sites are available. We are anticipating that the state will lift restrictions on outdoor recreation opportunities. So, for example, the state California Department of Public Health requires that our group sites be closed. So if you were interested in a small, less than 15 person, less than 20 person barbecue, then that's something that you'd be able to do at a drop-in site. If you wanted to have a big 50 person activity or event, we wouldn't be able to accommodate that given California Department of Public Health guidelines. But again, we anticipate those restrictions will be lifted this summer sometime. And when that happens, we will be fully prepared to restore those services.
And then lastly, it's so exciting, such a breath of fresh air knowing that the baseball field and the expansion of the park is going to be able to finally allow kids out of the house, and it's going to grow community involvement and folks who haven't been able to participate in any type of collegiate sports or intramurals, that this is finally arriving. And is there going to be like a grand opening, like a ribbon cutting, or something that, because I recall that took place just before I took over as chair, that we were discussing that. So I'm to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Commissioner Monet, you were kind of cutting it in and out a little bit, but I believe you were asking about the timing of Flood Park and if we would be doing a ribbon cutting. So the next phase for Flood Park is the design. So we need to develop detailed engineered designs for all the amenities, for the subsurface utilities. We'll need to do extensive work with the San Francisco Public Utility Commission as the Hetch Hetchy line runs through the middle of the park. So that phase is going to take some time. And once the project has been designed, we've received all necessary permits, and we are ready to do a groundbreaking. We will definitely have some type of amazing event for that. And then an even better event for when we're able to do a ribbon cutting to get the community into the park and start using those facilities and amenities. But that'll be a little bit of time.
Thank you.
One last thing, Nicholas, quickly, is there any update on the opening of Fitzgerald Marine Reserve or Seal Cove?
Yes, Commissioner Mirrlees, we will be opening that on May 3rd. So Monday, May 3rd, the beach access and tide pool access at FMR will be restored.
Yeah, I saw that in the paper. Congratulations.
Thank you. We were very fortunate to receive permission to bring on some seasonal help that allowed us to get our staffing levels where they needed to be in order to bring back access to FMR Beach and tide pools, to bring back Bicycle Sunday, and then also to be providing the necessary direct visitor services that we provide throughout the summer months, so we can really make sure that people are able to fully utilize our parks. And then also with that help, we'll be able to push our closing time back. So a lot of great things were able to happen with that, with the approval of that extra help. And so we're very fortunate that the county manager had supported us in that and authorized us to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. And now it's
Hey, Neil, hold on.
Oh,
I had a sorry
sorry.
about that. I did have a couple questions, and one, Director Calderon, you said something about Bicycle Sunday. Do we have a date on all of that, or has that already opened up? I wasn't aware of that.
So Bicycle Sunday, we are targeting May 2nd.
Nice, great, excellent. That was one question I had. The other one was back to the whole fuel reduction at Huddard and Wunderlich. So I'm really excited that we're going to be getting this thing going. I guess my question for you is, I guess, what prompted kind of the prioritization of those two parks as opposed to others? Was it like a matter of convenience because the grant was kind of making its way there, or like, yeah, what prompted that prioritization of those two parks?
Yeah, great question, Commissioner. And that kind of opens up something that I should have included originally, which is the project's being implemented through a partnership with the San Mateo Resource Conservation District, or RCD. And the RCD, Mateo and Santa Cruz, received $5.3 million from California Department of, essentially CAL FIRE, California Department of Fire Prevention. The project. Those parks were selected in part because the criteria for the grant, which looked at both reducing and improving forest health, those parks were some of the impacts that met both those criteria. So we have overly dense forests in those areas. We have a lot of invasive species. We're being impacted significantly by sudden oak death. And so when you look at all of that, the project was able to that application, and it was able to meet a very important need. The other thing.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah,
Sorry, Dr. Calderon.
Sam,
Sam, could you put yourself on
your
mute?
microphone?
Thank you.
The other thing is when you look at CAL FIRE's fire hazard severity zone map, you will see that both Huddard and Wunderlich are identified as very high, essentially very high fire severity zones. So working to improve that is something that we are trying to take great strides to do.
Excellent. Thank you. Last thing, sorry, a bunch of questions today on Memorial Park. So I'm also extremely excited that we're going to get to reopen it. I've already been on the reservation system. I just can't agree with my kids like when to actually get a date. But I guess so. all of the work that we had talked about kind of in prior sessions, that's kind of taken care of. What's left? I know you talked a little bit about like a phase 2 and a phase 3. It feels like the wastewater was like the big one, plus, you know, obviously all of the updates in the restrooms and whatnot. Like, what's next? Are there going to be any ongoing projects that are still going to go, or did we close this book and then we'll start something up later in the next couple of years here?
Yeah, so the wastewater treatment plant was really the first big project out there that kind of went down its own path, right? That was a standalone project. And then several years ago, the department, when Peggy Jensen was the acting director of the department looked at what are the other needs that we have to get Memorial Park ready for its 100th anniversary in 2024. And one of the big ones was updating and upgrading the restrooms and shower room buildings. So we received a pot of money to do a variety of projects, including upgrading, at that time, 7 restrooms and shower room buildings. We also, at the time, had an assessment in hand that told us that our wastewater collection system was essentially antiquated and we needed to modernize. And we looked at different methods, and it was determined that upgrading the entire system was going to be the most efficient and effective way of doing that. So that got rolled into phase 1 because the collection system is serving those restrooms and shower buildings, and it's also connecting everything to that wastewater treatment plant. The last part of that phase 1 was really making sure that we are improving the pavement throughout the drive aisles throughout Memorial. There are many stories of individuals hitting that pothole and kind of hitting the bottom of their car, and we wanted to make sure that we were upgrading that. So that's how we got to phase 1, which was how do we improve the services that people are receiving while they're at the park, and also how do we improve operational efficiencies. Phase 2 now looks at what's the rest of the infrastructure in the park that needs to be done. And so one of those is the water distribution system that will need to be modernized. There's also an entire section of the park, Homestead, that is on requires significant upgrades to both subsurface utilities and as well as some of the restrooms and shower rooms there. So we're looking now at what are the gaps in the services that we're providing and how do we fill those, but also how do we recognize operational efficiencies everywhere we can. So if we can identify ways that that free up staff's time to provide more direct visitor services, to conduct more fuel reduction, to make sure our parks are as clean as they can be, then we're able to kind of prioritize those capital improvements for the overall experience. So that's kind of the thought process we've gone through.
Fantastic. And then that phase 2, where you're also planning on having that done before the 100th anniversary, or is that okay? Cool.
Yeah, the goal will be for phase 2 to be done before 2024.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Of course.
So are we ready for our regular agenda item?
Chair Mirrlees, you might, I think you might want to invite public comment on this item before you move on to the next agenda item.
Okay. Does anybody have anything to say on the director's report?
Yes, thank you. We do have one hand raised for public comment. I will now call on Carol Ann Young for her comment. Just 1 second. Please accept this invitation, unmute your mic and begin speaking.
Thank you. I did have one other quick question for Nicholas. The Fitzgerald Marine Reserve recently came up on the #1 most polluted beach in all of California. So I spoke with Kellex Nelson, and she said there's nothing on the agenda to help clean up San Vicente Creek, which was mentioned as why there was pollution. So have you been aware of that? I think there's actually 6 out of the 10 beaches are all located in San Mateo County and 5 on the coast. But this one's the only one in your purview, in the Marine Reserve as the polluted beach. So I was wondering if you had any plans to get, check on how to get rid of this pollution, and also maybe help the source at the, they say the source is the stream that comes in through there, San Vicente Creek. So I don't know if you can work with RCD to get that, help get that on the radar or not. Have you heard about it? Did you know it was polluted?
Yeah. So, and that was there've been a variety of a number of streams that tend to always show up on that list. What we were able to take from that report, which came out some time ago, was that we think because it was such a dry year that when the sampling was done, the way the analysis came up, we had some questions about it, I'll say, but we are doing work within San Vicente, and we would be happy to work with RCD to make sure that everything upstream of the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve is also working to minimize how much contamination is put into that.
There's a lot of horse farms. That's the main thing. So
yeah. So, but I'd be happy to work with the RCD on that.
Oh, good, because she didn't say she had any plans. So maybe it has to do with funding, but it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. I do not see any more hands raised, Chair.
Okay, I wanted to add something on this, and this stream has been a problem for a long time, and the Parks Department has done a lot of work there, planting native plants along the creek bed that would hopefully soak up some of that pollution. I guess it's not enough, but we went through we went through a funding system years ago to improve the health of that stream, and I guess it either needs to be done again or we have to do more than we did before. It's been on the radar of the Parks Department for a really long time. That stream is really called out. It's the drainage for a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of horse farms. So it could be dog waste. There are a lot of septic systems in that area, and yeah, it could horse farms, dogs, and septic. Could be a combination of all those, but it's something we ought to look at as a community with the sewer districts and with the horse farms and with the Parks Department. Unfortunately, the end of the stream goes through the Parks Department, so we get everything from everybody else's property. It's not just the parks problem, but it's a community problem that we have to work on. But yeah, I think we will. So thanks for bringing that up, Sid. Okay, now are we ready for our agenda item, our regular agenda? The first item is the use of inmate labor by the Parks Department. For some reason, my agenda is redacted. It's got a black line through the topic. But I know it's about inmate labor, the use of inmate labor for wildfire reduction.
Yeah, Chair Mariles, the agenda item is Parks Department's use of California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation work crews.
Okay.
Is the agenda topic. So yeah, Janet, if you'd be able to, I guess, put it in presentation mode. And so this is an informational item, and the format for today's conversation will be, I'm going to provide a few slides on, the program, and then from there, I will ask Chief Aldo Gonzalez from CAL FIRE to speak briefly, and then we'll turn it over to the commission to have a discussion on this matter. So, let me pull up my notes here. I apologize. Janet, next slide, please. So according to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's website, Conservation Camp Program is designed to support local, state, and federal agencies in mitigating and responding to natural and man-made disasters. And so this is a program that San Mateo County has utilized for some time, and partnering jurisdictions, I know have also done the same. Next slide, please. In order to provide what I felt was appropriate background, I wanted to take information off of the CDCR website. And so that's what the next two slides consist of, are points that have been directly taken from CDCR's website, from their fact sheet. And so wanted to put this in front of the commission because I felt that it was best that it be explained in CDCR's own words instead of my own. And so this first bullet point specifies that first, inmates must volunteer to be working on a conservation camp crew, and that there are certain classifications that an inmate must fall within in order to be eligible to work or volunteer on one of these crews. And the next one specifies a little bit more what some of these classifications are. And essentially, any sexual offense, arson, or history of escape with force or violence would make someone ineligible to serve on a conservation camp assignment. Next slide, please. And then the next 2 points. So the first one speaks to when wildfires are not occurring, camp crews can work with localities to do a wide range of duties, one of which is brushing or reducing fuel loads, which is how they've supported the San Mateo County Parks Department in the past. And then the second bullet speaks to the fact that individuals who volunteer to serve on a conservation camp crew are eligible for essentially credits that reduce their sentencing. So in this case, it states, most will receive a 2-for-1. So for every day that they serve on a conservation camp crew, 2 days of their sentencing is reduced. Next slide, please. What this slide shows is how the department has used conservation camp crews in the past. And you'll notice that in 2014, we used 3 days, which is a low, and in 2015, we had 50 days. Please note that in 2020, there were no days, and this was a combination because of COVID and the number of wildfires that were occurring throughout the state. While working with the San Mateo County Parks Department, conservation camp crews create and maintain shaded fuel breaks, and critical defensible space. Through the hard work of the conservation crews, the threat of wildfire in San Mateo County and in our parks has been mitigated significantly. In fact, one of the most important projects that conservation camp crews have worked on was the creation and maintenance of a shaded fuel break along Old Hall Road in Pescadero Creek County Park. You may remember that Old Hall Road served as the northeastern fire line during the CZU Lightning Complex fire. And had that fire crossed that line, it could have spread as far east as 280. So conservation camp crews serve a very important role in keeping residents of San Mateo County safe and mitigating the threat of wildfires in our county. Next slide, please. So this is a list of the San Mateo County Parks Department's wildfire fuel management program. And this is a 5-year vision for fuel management within San Mateo County Parks. The program entails 32 projects or over 1,800 acres of land and is estimated to cost just over $18.5 million over that 5-year period. This estimate includes treatment and retreatment costs and assumes contractors are to complete all the work. It's unreasonable to assume that the department will be allocated $18.5 million over the next 5 years. And we understand that that's a lot of money. And so therefore we work very hard to identify ways that we can recognize efficiencies in how we complete these tasks and how we maintain these fuel breaks. Two ways of doing this is to do a lot of the work in-house with our own crews, which park rangers do an amazing job reducing and managing fuel loads in our system and working to mitigate the threat of wildfires. We also do this by working with conservation camp crews. In year one of our wildfire fuel management program, we're planning to treat about 332 acres of land. This will cost just over $2.1 million. Of that $2.1 million, 1.1 approximately will be funded by grant monies from the state, and that's fully consists of the project at Huddard and Wunderlich that we spoke of earlier. 590,000 consists of outstanding grants. So, excuse me. So we've applied to FEMA for 2 grants for a project at JSP and a project at Edgewood. And then 120,000 is from other sources, primarily funds we get from the state for managing San Bruno Mountain and the San Bruno Mountain Habitat Conservation Plan. 352,000 is going to be what the county's cost is. Should the department be granted more funds for fuel reduction, it would really be advantageous to use those funds to hire a contractor to create a shaded fuel break along Crystal Springs Road in San Bruno at JSP, as well as reduce fuel loads along the western boundary of Quarry Park. Both projects will improve public safety, preserve critical community evacuation routes, and mitigate the threat of wildfire to residents. So that's a very brief overview of how what the program is from the website's perspective, and how we use the program to help the department and and the conservation crew members. So I guess what I would end with is that to date, the departments use the program because it's mutually beneficial. For parks and the residents of San Mateo County, conservation camp crews improve public safety by reducing fuel loads, thinning understory brush, and installing fuel breaks and shaded fuel breaks. Again, Old Hall Road is a great example. For crew members, their sentence is reduced. They receive on-the-job training that can be used to secure a job or a career after incarceration, and they're granted access to programs like the Ventura Training Center, which provides programming and critical life skills and training participants to become firefighters. Also, Governor Newsom signed into law last year legislation that allows crew members, specified crew members, to have their record expunged, provided that they completed the program without any incidents. So being able to have a record expunged means that crew members have a true second opportunity or second chance afterwards. And so that's really why the department has used this program and worked with this program in the past. So with that said, if Chief Gonzalez, there's Chief Gonzalez, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Gonzalez to maybe talk a little bit from the CAL FIRE perspective about the program, and then answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon to all the commissioners. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so CAL FIRE and Department of Corrections entered an agreement with the camps program back in 1946 here at Ben Lomond. Back then it was a YA camp, and all 5 crews were staffed. Over time, the YAs have kind of shut down, so we've moved over to adult camps here at Ben Lomond, or adult inmates. The program is what it is. Right now, there's, for every day you work, you get 2 days off. There's milestone credits. If you use a chainsaw on a fire for 30 days, you do the training and do that, you get 3 weeks taken off your sentence. If you do Alcoholics Anonymous here at the camp through the camp programs, you get another 3 weeks off your sentence. There's a whole lot of milestone credits. And like I said, you can move through the system, go into either the Ventura program or apply as a firefighter with CAL FIRE and come up the ranks. Currently, I know at least one person in a division chief position that works probably within 80 miles of this camp. I know 3 battalion chiefs who came through the camp system, 9 fire captains, FAEs are, I'm knowing less and less the younger people in the department because there's such a transition, but I mean, they're out there, and everybody, the people who have opportunities to make a career out of this are doing it. It requires hard work. The good thing about the camp program is, as Nicholas said, it's minimum security. I mean, if you drive up here, you'll see the fence is only 4 foot tall. The guys could jump it and start walking if they want. We'd have to go pick them up and get them back into the system. But very minimal security here. It's a really great environment. The bunkhouses are just like bunkhouses at any fire stations and whatnot. We do put in a good day's work. The guys volunteer, and we're doing the fuel reduction programs with the city of Santa Cruz County, San Mateo, of course, with you guys and stuff. And we have like a long waiting list of people waiting to get on the list to get crew days, but we try to stick with the people we started with. Another reason for working in your guys' county with you guys is it provides us with a great staging location. During the summer, we'll move crews up there if the weather's really hot and dry, and we'll put crews to work up there. So if there's a fire dispatch, they're closer to fires. Something I didn't mention is we use the crews as haul teams for rescues and body recoveries on the beaches and the cliffs if they need them. We train the guys in that, and it teaches them a little bit about life's realities. You know, what happens if you get close to the cliff and you fall? And you know, it's like we call ourselves the men of the mountain, and the crews do what some people don't like. You know, we help the fire guys with body recoveries, and it puts life's realities in their face. But when I ran crews at at Mount Home Camp in Tulare Unit, we were knocking out 3,000 hours a year in fire hours, and they're only making, I think it was $250 an hour then. They were leaving camp with checks of $6,000 to $12,000. On the day of their parole, the CDC would hand them a check. Now they hand them a little Visa card with all their money credited on there, and off they go, either taken to a train station or their family picks them up. So it's a great opportunity. You know, they're not in here for the best reasons, but there's a lot of great guys here. And I know one guy who came in who had 8 years and was gone in 2.5. And it sounded good from his point of view, getting in, doing time. But on the other side, the families that I guess were affected by what he did were furious and outraged and disgusted by all the opportunities this person had taken. So, I mean, when you have the governor's office calling and telling you not to let somebody go, that's not my business as a CAL FIRE employee. The teeter-totter tips both ways. We're here to work with you guys. We teach these guys as much as we can. We mentor them as captains. If they want to talk, that I've had several inmates come to me and ask about, you know, how to deal with family problems, dealing with algebra. They're doing online schooling. They have family visiting here. And it sounds like here in the future, along with the expungements that the governor is working on, is they're going to probably loosen up the system, and they're going to get other things here at the camp that they wouldn't normally get, like phones, video games, showrooms, and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting. They're working on incentive programs to keep guys coming into the camp program. I think it's beneficial. I mean, the crews are the backbone of the department, and we work hard, but I mean, it's a good day's work. It teaches you basic skills. I know when I graduated high school, I worked at McDonald's, and when the manager told me they were making $700 an hour at the register, and I was flipping the hamburgers, I thought I need to get smarter, work harder, because I flipped, you know, 800 hamburger patties it was $5.50 an hour back then, and it kind of made me feel like I got gypped. So it taught me hard work. But anybody got any questions for me?
Chief, before that, would you be able to talk about the Ventura training?
Yeah, so the Ventura program was put together by the governor. They dumped a lot of money in it. It's specific to guys who are paroling out of the system and want to take a job with the Ventura program. We'll write them a letter, send them down there when they parole. They do some additional training, and they're available for fire call. They're set up in crew bunkhouses. They can go home on the weekends, and they fight fire. With that experience, right now in CAL FIRE, we're not getting a lot of people with firefighter ones, and that's the entry level position with us. All our firefighter ones are age 18, straight out of high school, have never worked a hard day in their life. So we're taking any experience we can get, and that's a Ventura program, guys. They're a good reputation. I'll say, you know, 8 years ago, I was looking for kids that were high school sports and FFA, Future Farmers of America, because they came to us with work skills. And, you know, if you were in team sports, you worked as a team, you knew how to communicate and work with other people. It's becoming very hard to find these skills. So the Ventura camp is bridging the training gap that the guys leave here with on the structure side, and putting them to work right away. They get their certificates. We put boots on the ground as soon as we can. We just had a fire here in Boulder Creek yesterday, 4 acres, ran up the hillside. I know it's kind of hard to believe everything looks green up there, but we had both crews respond yesterday, put some line in, had one crew do day shift today, and they just got back. So I think we're good now, but it is what it is.
Anybody have a question for the chief?
I have one.
Sam?
Chief, thanks so much for joining us. And it's actually, as we say this, it's on the peninsula, it's 80 plus degrees, which is for April, you think today is April 1st, April Fool's. It has been scorching yesterday, and it's been, you know, rather warm today. To get to the nuts and bolts of things, and I think you could probably concur with this, your program or this program or the state or the governor's program doesn't work to the max of it is to it exceeds without good people. It sounds like you've got great people that keep this afloat and help this great program running. And the amount of young people that are eager and want to build their sort of their resume, they're anxious to work. This kind of gets their feet wet, and potentially they can move on to something, you know, bigger and better. By and large, though, I think the humanity of this program, I think you can agree that folks that serve this great program grow in life.
I agree. I totally agree. It makes men out of boys, working hard and working as teams. And, you know, you can see fires on television, movie shows, but when you're standing here when the lightning complex fire blew through San Mateo, Santa Cruz area, it taught these guys. I'd tell them, you won't know until you've been there. And you can tell a story 100 times of, you know, all the fires I've been to in Southern California and in Northern California. But when that freight train rolled through here, the guys, to see 150-foot tall flame links really blew them away.
Anyone else?
I have just a
Heather?
couple questions. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all that you put into this program and these people who you know, are helping us in such important ways. How did I have it right? How much do the camp participants get paid each day?
So currently the inmate crews get each participant gets paid like $3 and I think it was 25 cents a day.
Yeah, I saw it was like $2.90, like average work $2.90, advanced work $3.90, and that's a day. How long is a day typically are they working?
Days run from checkout, basically 8 to 5. The crews check in here at 4:30, and then if they have an incident, they go on fire pay, which is $1 an hour. And I hear those rates are going to change. I actually did some inquiring after we met last week,
Okay.
and I hear rate changes are coming. But like I said, the guys, it's really lax here. We have a little store for them. They get to buy things out of once a month. There's payphones here where they can call their families if they sign up. Like I said, really lax. The inmates can come and knock on my door and have a one-on-one conversation with me. It's not anything like Folsom State Prison or anything like that.
And is it right that the pay that they do get comes from corrections, not CAL FIRE?
Yes, we do the timesheets once a month, the lieutenant and I, and then the pay comes from corrections. Unless it's a fire, then that pay comes through CAL FIRE into corrections, and they still get paid that way.
And you know who's there, right? Like, you know, they're like identifying information enough to be able to pay them at the back end.
Yes, ma'am. All pay documents are taken care of once a month. That's the Lou's and mine priorities. Payroll needs to be done, no exceptions at the end of the month.
Okay, and I know that it's a corrections payment program aside from the fire. So I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but why do they get paid at all if it's not required?
I do not know the answer to that question. All I know is it's part of rehabilitation. I know they don't make a lot, but the trade is good. You know, if you work 1 day on grade, you get 2 days taken off your sentence.
Yeah.
That's a great trade.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I had some additional questions for Nicholas, but I don't know. I can wait on if anybody else has questions for the chief here.
I had, anybody else?
Well, the only one thing that I had, and it's a follow-up on the whole corrections thing. So I'm assuming the rates are done at the state level. Is that correct? Or are there different rates for different like counties or municipalities?
No, the rates are all done at the state level. I have no control of that, and neither does the lieutenant.
Got it. Perfect.
And even though they're paid so little, they can end up with thousands of dollars by the time they end up leaving.
Yeah, all the cruise hours are tallied for the end of the year, and like I think my guys had over 1,000 hours last year in firefighting. So that all gets put, like I said, once a month. It gets put into their CDC account, and when they parole, that's loaded onto an ATM card, and off they go.
Okay. And
One,
do
oh,
you
sorry.
have, oh, sorry.
No,
Do
no,
you have enough spaces for everybody that wants to be in this program? Do you have a waiting list to get into the program? How hard is it to get into this program if you're an inmate?
Right now, we are extremely low. We usually run 5 crews of 16 inmates out of this camp. We are down to 2 crews of 10. And that's because the governor's letting people out for COVID and passing laws and getting records expunged. So COVID has really shut the door on us because inmates got to be transported from cities and counties to the CDC facilities. From there, they figure out if they want to stay housed in like Fulton Prison or they want to come out to the camp system. When they get to the camp system, they got to do 2 weeks of physical fitness and 2 weeks of training before they even come out to a camp. When I worked at Mountain Home Camp in Tulare, there were people waiting to come out to camp. So if an inmate gets sick, he gets transported back up to Sierra for treatment. Back then, the guys would really not want to be sick because their spot would get taken and they have to wait for the spot to open back up so they could replace themselves. So right now it's open. We're trying to get what we can staffed up for the fire season. However, it's pretty prestigious to get on the cruise and get out of an 8x10 cell if you qualify. I mean, there's a lot of amenities here, and it doesn't sound like much, but every morning when we check the crews out on the basketball court, I point at the ocean. And so you guys see that? You won't see that from any other camp in the state of California. So it's a really great place. I believe Ben Lomond to be a special place. I've only been the camp chief here for 2 years. And when I came here 5 years ago, I just fell in love with the community and the Santa Cruz area.
Great, thank you. Heather, did you have something more?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
I have questions for Nicholas whenever we're ready for that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do you want to ask Nicholas your question now, or do we want to make our comment?
Kind of a chain of them, so bear with me. Thank you. So thank you for arranging this. Both thanks to Neil and to Nicholas. My interest in this issue has only grown since I've been on commission. I heard about this the very first day, and was chatting with Scott about it on the way out. Just have learned a lot, and I'm really thankful for our department's commitment to fire fuel reduction. I mean, I know that this is a health and safety issue of the highest priority, and I know everybody just wants to make as much progress as we possibly can on this front. So I guess like my question to Nicholas really begins is, would you say that fire fuel reduction is among the department's top priorities at this point?
At this point in time, I would say wildfire fuel management or fuel reduction is one of the top priorities for the department. That's correct.
Would you say it's critically important? Like how would you, like, can you paint me a picture? Like, how important is the work that these people do for us?
Well, I think it's extremely important for the work that conservation crew members do is extremely important for us as a department and us as a county organization and the residents of the county. I think the Old Hall Road project was a great example.
Yeah, essential for us.
Mhm.
If we didn't have them, would we have to find another way to do this work?
Yeah, naturally.
Would it be more expensive?
I think, yeah, I mean, if we're comparing if we're comparing conservation crew work days to, say, hiring a contractor, yeah, it would be more expensive.
And would it be more expensive even than minimum wage labor? Like, do you think you could get anybody to do this work for minimum wage?
I haven't gone out to collect that type of information, so I couldn't say.
Okay, like in your experience with general, like, heavy labor of the nature that they're doing, do we pay anyone minimum wage to do that work?
Again, I have to be honest. I don't dive into our financial analysis to look at the monthly rate or the hourly rate we pay contractors to do this. So I would be
Not even contract, I guess within the department, like we have staff doing it. That's one comp. Do our staff make more than minimum wage who work on this?
Yeah, our park rangers make more than minimum wage.
Okay, and does the department have interns? Do we usually hire interns?
The department has interns as well as park aides. Interns tend to do more. Well, that's not true. Department carries both interns and park aides.
Okay, and do those people, like, would you say, do they get, it's entry level work, right? Like kind of work training along with work?
Yes.
So they get some benefits in addition to the pay that they make?
When you say benefits, do you mean like health insurance, retirement, or do you?
No, I mean like work experience and resume building and some of the same things that we heard about that camp participants get.
That's correct.
And do we pay those interns and park aides?
Yes, we do.
Do we pay them at least minimum wage?
That is my understanding, yes.
And why do we do that?
I presume we do that as a way to, I guess, in part, attract the highest quality candidate that we can. But I'd have to probably do a little bit more deep diving on the history and the record of that.
Do we have any unpaid workers in the department?
At this time, not to my knowledge.
Okay, and have in recent memory, since you were assistant, you were in deputy position before, is that a thing that the Parks Department does? Are county employees allowed to be unpaid? Less than the county's minimum wage?
I do not know if the county has a internship program in which interns are not paid.
But the department doesn't do that?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, and then I think I just wanted to thank you. I again appreciate your commitment to the priority that I know is the department's and all of ours, which is reducing this fire risk. I think it's been the conversation that we've had, as part of other items at commission before has been about whether not whether the prisoners who are already have this opportunity should have this opportunity for all the reasons that Chief laid out and that I'm sure corrections would lay out if they were here. Of course, there are it's preferable, right, to be a part of something like this than to spend your day in a cell. And so I think one thing that I just wanted to comment on is this question of voluntary, which the chief raised and you had cited in the slide, the language from the corrections website. So, you know, I know, Neil, when we were talking about this at our meeting last time, you had mentioned kind of the desire to hear the prisoner perspective and whether, you know, like to understand, you know, whether this would be something that folks would want to lose. I think it's pretty clear that losing this program or not participating in this program would be going backwards, would be taking away something that is valuable and important as an opportunity as it stands. I think this question of voluntary is a pretty important one. And I know that we both reached out to try to get a voice here and unfortunately could not make that part of this presentation, but you know, we do have the words as published in the paper. This is what's in our packet. Dorsey Nunn, who's a civil rights activist, executive director of legal services for prisoners with children, who is himself a former incarcerated individual, has this quote from, it was quoted in the San Francisco Examiner, "You can't volunteer when you are being forced to do this stuff. Nobody in their right mind in the state of California would take a job if they were paying you 15 cents an hour, 7 cents an hour, or $2 a day." So, end quote. So just, you know, since we don't have a voice like that here live, I think it's just important that we hear that, that of course, an ocean view and camaraderie and, you know, there are benefits. There are benefits to a good day's work, the life skills that the chief were talking about, job readiness, training, and so on. Those are all real and those are not meaningless. The time off sentence, certainly, I understand and I appreciate the value of those things as best as a non-incarcerated person can. But I think what we ought to remember is that there is none of us, I don't think, I'm going to wager, and somebody please raise your hand if I'm saying something untrue, that anybody would pick to do work for less. So given the choice between $2.90 a day or $3.25 and minimum wage, I believe everyone would pick minimum wage. And in our county, we have a minimum wage. We have agreed to the minimum value of an hour's work. And I believe it's $15.62 an hour. And so even though I know that the pay rate is set at the state level, and we can't change the whole state's arc from San Mateo County in the Bay Area, I also know that we have a history of listening to the voices of this population, right? We made phone calls more affordable from our county jail. We started providing feminine hygiene products to our female prisoners. Like there is an arc of justice here too that we need to pay attention to and we can be a part of. And I think it's especially painful for me when I think about this question, when I think about how important the work is. That's the part that really gets me worked up because this work is so valuable to all of us. And precious. It's protecting our homes, it's protecting our air, it's protecting our parks, it's protecting our safety. And I think that we could find a way to properly, or at least better, compensate that work in line with our established valuation of work at a minimum, which is our minimum wage. So that is, you know, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to learn about this and to offer this comment and, you know, to try to push for that. You know, I understand that the department has many, many needs and priorities, and as does our county overall. We are in the midst of a crisis unlike any we've seen for the last century. So there's no shortage of needs out there. And I think, to me, you know, this is a population that does not have a surplus of support in the community, and their support often comes in the form of their lawyers, and their lawyers are busy fighting their cases and appeals. So as I think we ran into And so I just wanted to raise this as a policy question. You know, I think there's a possibility for the department to do something, but there's also a possibility for our board to take action. And that is what, you know, I wanted to communicate. And I know that we're not in an action item here, but I just wanted to share on information with my fellow commissioners an updated version of the letter to the board, which I had drafted back over the summer, and which we didn't advance at that time because the question was kind of moot because of, we saw the zeros on the data for 2020. But now we've come back around and we have requested crew days, is my understanding. We've requested 32 crew days for the coming season, and it's budget season now. And so what I have drafted is not an action from commission. We're not taking action, but I have drafted a letter, and I'm here listening to everything from presentations and also others' comments. And I think we are free to call we can call for an action item here today if we want to have at a future meeting, if we want to have more on this, for example, for the department to look into the possibility of establishing some kind of program. I think the thing I just want to communicate and what that letter asks for, which I'll send to the board once I've had the benefit of this meeting, is just that I don't believe we need to wait for the state to change its pay levels. And it's great that it sounds like something's coming. Maybe the difference between what is currently being paid and our minimum wage would shrink even. But it seems to me that if we know who's working in San Mateo County, which we certainly do because the payroll records are our priority and they get addressed monthly, that we could find a way to pay. I mean, it's not like the Department of Corrections has to approve how we spend our money, nor does the state in general, right? Like we can assign funds. And I think it's important for all of us to acknowledge how little money we're talking about here. So assuming 32 crew days, 12 people a day, 8 hours a day at $15.62. So even the full dollar amount, we're talking about $50,000. So it's $50,000 ask to plus administrative time, which is priceless, to change the narrative and show what's possible. And I would love to see us do something like that. And so that's what's requested for consideration to our budget decision makers, our purse holders, our wonderful board who have so many competing priorities before them. And the other possibility, just so everybody's aware, I think there was mention of some movement at the state. There's another movement at the state. There's a policy introduced in the House called ACA 3, which is a push to abolish unpaid or involuntary labor within the prison system. So that's a policy track. And there's an article in our comments from San Francisco's board has endorsed that resolution. I think we're all mindful. I think we've all heard loud and clear that the strengths of the program and what it does offer and contribute, and creating a path for reentry and a true second chance. So, I think the nuances of exactly the consequences of that program would be important to understand. But that's another option for our board. They could take that action. So those are the things that I've raised there. And, again, I'm just really thankful for everybody's attention to this issue. I'm thankful to the supervisors and their staff who've tuned in today and who've taken calls over the last few weeks. I think we have an opportunity, and it's a rounding error on a rounding error in our county budget. So that's why I wanted to make sure to talk about it at that level, because I know the department has so much it needs to deliver. So that's all. Thanks.
Hi, we do have Commissioner Mene with his hand up, so I don't want to go ahead and take him next. Chair Merlis?
I don't want to take.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I didn't want to take too much of the time. It's closer to 5:20. I know time is always of the essence. I just want to kind of piggyback on what Commissioner Green had to say. And Heather, I really wish I had worked on this project with you, because this is very near and sounds like it's very near and dear to your heart. And it's also very near and dear to me. and with opportunities that would open up windows for folks that are indeed looking to get second chances. I really wish we could have collectively worked on this, not so much a bill, but sort of an initiative. But
There's
hopefully
still
we-
time, Sam. That's what we're doing.
So I was 21 years old, 1996, and I was interning at Prisoner Services and the Northern California Service League. And before I kind of go into that real quick, I am familiar with the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, even though I'm a San Mateo County resident, born and raised in San Francisco. But when I was doing a college field study for a course for jails and prisons, I had done an internship in San Francisco that credited my field study, which was required for the class, and had toured San Quentin prison and had done a internship stint at San Francisco County Jail, both in violent and non-violent areas. And it's just, you want to kind of choke up a little bit, but you're very happy to know that those folks that want to, at least in the non-violent area, that want to try to turn their lives around. And back then, I think this was a program where some of these inmates wanted to be firefighters. They wanted to learn to give back. So this program has been in line for many, many years. And I'm talking 96, 25, I'm 46, so I was 21, the math is right. It was 25 years ago. And some of these inmates you run into and you remember from when you were younger, that have turned their lives around, that have been in part of this CAL FIRE program. And I really, really think that they should be compensated for a lot more than just a measly can of soda or a bag of chips. These guys work really hard. Some are really trying to get their lives back together. And it's great that what Chief Gonzalez was talking about, that they have an opportunity to get credit for time served, and they turn their lives around. That's all I have.
Thank
Hey,
you.
guys, if I could, just looking at all sides of this, because it's what we got to do, we gather data before we make a decision. Just personally, I think if I were a ward of the state and my rights were taken away because I'd committed a felony or several crimes, going into the camp system is probably the first thing I'd look to do if I got hooked up and had to do jail time because I broke the laws of the state of California. That's all I'm going to say. I enjoy working with you guys. I enjoy the relationship we have with you guys. And I don't know, there's a lot of data to take in here. There's a lot of facets and whatnot. I think this is better than sitting in jail. And like I said, if you can take 8 years and turn them into 3, I think it's well worth it. But like I said, I've been on the inside. A lot of people that have been on the inside, they forget that their rights are being taken away for a specific reason. They committed a crime. I'm just throwing that out there. It's another angle to look at this. Like I said, we had a guy who had 10 years and was out in 2.5, and before he was out, the DA's office is calling, do not let him out. The families were getting waivers signed. Everybody's trying to get a hold of the governor. He took my family, and I'll never see this person again. How does he get a sentence for 10 and get out in 2.5? There's a lot of, like I said, a lot of recipe and a lot of ingredients in what we're looking at. I'm just showing you guys a different ingredient. I want to keep the relationship with you guys, and I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me. Like I said, I'm speaking for Ben Loming Camp. I don't make decisions for the state of California, CAL FIRE, or the Department of Corrections. But if you guys even feel like you want to come up and tour the camp, when the COVID issue kind of relaxes and we get control of that thing, I'll be happy to have you up for lunch and a walkthrough and show you what we got going on up here, and go out to a crew day and watch the guys work.
I think all commissioners we should all plan a field trip. I mean, I'm double vaccinated, thank God, but I don't know about anyone else, but I think that would be a heck of an idea to, if we're talking about this as a subject matter, myself and Commissioner Green are, at least I've committed onto this. I want to be a part of this now, help with the solution and writing, continuous work with this. I think it'd be a heck of an idea, knowing that this is on the agenda, knowing that we've got a good rapport with you, Chief Gonzalez, that it would be a great idea once, COVID is all wiped out. We don't have to wear a mask, or, it's the CDC says we're in the green. I think it would be a heck of an idea just to take a day field trip, get some lunch, see how your day-to-day process works.
Yeah, I would love to do a site visit. I'd love to do that if we could schedule that.
Commissioner Meredith, I think that would be something that definitely, hopefully once summer, I think, I don't know, August, September, October, I think we'll have definitely be closer to the finish line, if anything. And I think if the Director Calderon wants to join along, and we can take some supervisors even and do like a day trip up there and see how Chief Gonzalez runs his program.
Chief, I've never been in prison, and I hope I don't ever have to be in prison. But if I were in prison, I would do this in a flash. And I would like as much money as possible, but I would do it for nothing, because I'd like to get out of prison. I'd like to get out of prison to work outside, and I'd like to get out of prison early. So I think, I can't speak for anybody else but myself, but I see the value in this program personally. And I wouldn't want that to go away for somebody else that has this opportunity. Having said that, yeah, if we can find some more money, and we could talk about how much that should be. I think maybe it shouldn't be minimum wage, because these guys are being housed and fed. And if you work at Starbucks and you make minimum wage, you're not bringing home any extra money. You're not ending up with an account at the end of a year that has any money at all in it, if you're working for minimum wage out in society. So
just a note on that, like with the comp of room and board, like when you have I know the childcare example, right? Like if you have an in-house nanny or live-in housekeeper, for example, that's a benefit to the employer. Like having the people on site at the ready is a benefit to us as residents, as much as,
they're
just
not necessarily on site at the camp for the fire.
But that was what I understood from the chief, that they are staging like close to us at fire season, so that they are closer to dispatch if there is an event.
Yeah, so what we'll do, if it's a high heat day and wind day, I'll see what projects we have in San Mateo, and I'll move the crews that way. So I have some guys who can jump on there. I just thought of something. This is kind of weird, but let's say we pay everybody minimum wage. Do we get to charge them for room and board here and meals? I just thought of that because I'd applied to work at China Peak Ski Resort, and they were paying me minimum wage, but I had to pay for the room, the food, washers and dryers. So I was only making probably about $3 an hour after it was all said and done, and it was all taken out of your check. So when I'd get the check, it'd be, this is what you made, but these are your deductions. Here you go. That just popped into my head. More data to look at and consider, guys.
That'd be up to you. That's your program.
Yeah. I just thought, wow, different stuff, different strokes, different folks. I'm going to detach myself from this meeting because I shouldn't be interjecting my personal opinion since I'm wearing the CAL FIRE patch. If you guys don't have any questions for me, I'll leave. If you do, I'll continue to stay on.
I just want to tell you how much I appreciate this program, Steve. So,
That's it.
yeah, let it go with that. If
I have
you-
I have a question for him before he goes.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, actually, they haven't recognized me yet. I'm a member of the public.
We can do that, Sid.
Okay,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. I just wanted to know, maybe I missed it when you were giving your presentation, but in order to be in the camp where you're up there in Felton, do they have minimum requirements of what they're in jail for in the first place? In other words, are they severe or are they pretty much lightweight felons?
Well, they're lightweight to moderate.
Okay,
And it also depends on their points. If they were in the system for straight up murder and they were on good behavior for long enough, they can make it into the camp system.
okay. Well, I'm not concerned about it for safety's sake, but just,
Right.
I always feel like anybody that goes to prison or even gets a speeding ticket, you pay the ticket or you fight it in court, but you also are, deserving of it, and you probably are paying your debt to society. So I do appreciate Ms. Green's, very passionate thing about giving the minimum wage, but I also think, if we're the only county doing it, that could be a problem, so maybe, have a quiet under the table bonus at the end or something, but not just say that, we're getting all the great firefighters from the prisons because we're paying minimum wage and no one else is. That's all my point. So you'd have to work it out, but maybe like Neil was starting to say, but he was interrupted, that maybe not pay the full minimum wage, but a bonus is more what I was thinking. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much, CAL FIRE. You guys are doing a great job. And also, Neil, I might send you a YouTube video I saw about prison labor fighting fires. It was really uplifting. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff, for your comment. We appreciate it. Thank you.
I just want to say that, all the data we're presenting here, Mrs. Green is a great resource of information. I've learned something in my life: never jump to conclusions, never make assumptions, and always gather all the data you can before you make a decision. Because if you leave something out, you just don't feel right when you find out you left something out. I would like to commend you guys on the Old Hall Road. I helped hold the fire to that road for 3 nights. And when I looked at the map, I thought, man, I hope that road's opened up, because if it's not, I hope I can hold it to 17. If not, it's running clear to San Jose. So thank you guys. I commend you guys for doing the work on the Old Hall Road. You have no idea how huge that was. I was shocked when I drove it. I thought, we can hold it here, and thank God for whoever's doing what they're doing here. This was amazing. So I commend you guys on that work. I can't stress on how important it was. And if nobody else has questions for me, I'll go ahead and step away.
Great, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Chief.
for your time. Appreciate it.
Do we have any members of the public, any other members of the public that have raised their hands?
Thank you, Commissioner, Chair Mary Lees. Actually, we do not. I think Caroline Ann Young was the only one that had raised her hand for this item. So if anybody wants to step forward and raise their hand, we'll have like a couple seconds to see if anybody is interested in speaking on this item. Seeing none, I think we're okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Be safe this weekend. Be fire safe. It's out there, and stay safe. And I look forward to probably hearing from you guys. I'm here to give you data. Have a good day.
Yeah. Neil, before we move off this item, since it's just informational, how do we request like next steps?
Let's let everybody go around and talk about what they've heard and what they think, commissioner by commissioner, and then we can talk about next steps. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Well, first of all, thanks, Commissioner Green, for walking us through that stuff. And actually, a lot of the information that was put together in the packet was very, very informative. I think the one question that I had, and it kind of tails off from the chief's comments about getting all the information possible, is in your research so far, have you been able to see whether, I mean, is there any precedent for doing this, right? And have there been any other municipalities or any other areas that have been able to do it? Because I really think that that would be a great way to kind of learn and be able to see, you know, how this thing, you know, could potentially be implemented. What are some of the pitfalls, as well as, you know, how we might be able to make a program like this successful.
So no, I haven't seen anything exactly on this front. But I do know, I mean, I think there is plenty of precedent though for figuring out how to pay people when we know their information. And so I think in the end, it's like the administrative part could be, I work in local government, like I think some parts of this administrative work could be extremely simple. Like if it is stipends or gift cards or whatever, like procuring those and programming them to the right amounts and giving them to people when we know where the people are is I think relatively straightforward. So I think and I think what I know is that like these conversations have come up before in my internet research. I saw, you know, like in Connecticut, they were talking about it. And elsewhere in the state, like the legislators who introduced ACA 3 are not from San Mateo County. So I think there's a tension. I think that like what it seems to me and what I heard in the briefing that I had with the corrections official who provided a little information about the program similar to what Chief Gonzalez was sharing, was that, you know, the pay rate's set by corrections at the state level. And so like that's the needle to move to change the whole program.
Of course.
I don't believe that's realistic for any one county to do. And so the question is just like, can we do something to show what it could be possible?
Yeah, I think that, and the administrative stuff, I think that shouldn't be a big hurdle. I guess my big question was just around like, what are some of the potential unforeseen things, right? Because I know that CAL FIRE works with not only San Mateo County, but like Santa Cruz County, and like how does that all work? And is there going to be like a preference towards going to San Mateo County? That might be a good thing, right? But you get like even that like small logistical thing, like how that would work out. I mean, I just want to make sure that we kind of think through some of those as we're thinking about it. I mean, the principle of it, totally makes sense, right? I mean, I think that, you know, if we can swing it, I think it would be fantastic. I just want to make sure that as we're starting to do something, we understand kind of the foreseen and potentially unforeseen circumstances that can come up from us doing it.
Great.
Cool.
Anybody else? Sam, have you said what you want to say, or?
I think I'll tell you one thing. With Chief Gonzalez coming on here this afternoon, this evening, was an eye opener, because I kind of knew and kind of read on the illustration that Commissioner Green had presented, and you know, as I said, I know now there's still room to get on board with this, but it's such an eye opener that we have, and I can't agree with you more that we as commissioners have our due diligence. And I think I don't want to push it as mandatory. I think it would be an exciting adventure to go up and do a site visit. You know, I think it's critical to know we might not be a massive commission, but we're a commission that people know about and know that we actually exist. So part of the beautification of parks and the beaches, that's great. But now this is something that just catches our eyes, and I think it's by and large what we do and what we serve as commissioners, and what the public comes, whether it's in person and know the initiatives we work on, whether it's the parks, the dogs, the beaches. I think this is part of it too, because it covers an area that we may not be completely, you know, it's not definitely on top of our list. I think it is now, and we can at least share our experience from the chief's experience of what the chief came on today. And if anyone has questions to raise, I think I would be better educated about it. Definitely Commissioner Green spearheaded and quarterback this whole idea. And, you know, I'm excited now once, you know, I'm vaccinated, but, you know, I still have to take precautions just like everyone else. But I would say let's start thinking about, and the approval of the county and maybe Director Calderon, that we go up there and see what day-to-day operations look like.
Right on, thank you. Okay, my turn. Heather, thank you for bringing this up. You know, it's rare that we focus on issues that are of interest to society at large. I mean, parks are of interest, but this is a big issue, and it's great that we take on something like this. I tried really hard to contact the ACLU. I know Nicholas and I both reached out to the NorCal ACLU, and I also reached out to David Fothy, who wrote a great article about this. He's a member of the ACLU in Washington, D.C. And he just contacted me back yesterday, which was too late to send it out, you know, always, of course. I also contacted Dorsey Nunn, and I didn't hear back from him either. But I really wanted to get like an official representative, you know, of both sides. And I'm sorry that didn't happen. What David Fothy said in his letter is he said that the ACLU of Northern California is not working on this issue yet. They haven't decided what to do about it. They will probably as time goes on, and we can revisit this. Their input would be great. David Fothy, who wrote the great article, didn't seem to know that our system was based on giving people time off for volunteer hours, and he thought that would be a good idea. And he also mentioned that maybe it wouldn't be proper to give them complete minimum wage, but something more. Certainly, when you look at what they're paid, it's shocking to think that they could, you know, end up with thousands of dollars at the end of, you know, making $1 an hour. Yeah, so I guess that's
$1 a day, to clarify.
yeah, $1 a day. Yeah, or no, in some situations you make $1 an hour for using a chainsaw or something like that. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's very,
those numbers were per day. Sorry to interrupt, but it's $290 average per day. And if you do the specialized work, it's an extra $1 per day.
okay. Anyway, it seems very low. And that we're discussing this is really cool. I'd like to discuss it further. What scares me is the idea that this camp would get the feeling that we don't want them, that we would say we don't want them unless you pay your people more. I think we want them. I think it's of great benefit. For when I go to prison someday, I want this program to be available to me. And I'm going to fight hard for that. Not to make light of it, but I don't feel very different than these people that need to get out of a jail cell. I feel for that, and I want out, and that this would get them out early and that get them out into the San Mateo County Parks system. That's great. You know, people do volunteer. I volunteer for nothing because I'm here doing this. And the Parks Department does have a lot of volunteers that work for nothing. They aren't considered employees. So while we don't have any employees that we pay less than minimum wage, we do have a lot of people working for the park system that get paid nothing. So I'm not saying that the pay is right. I'm just saying that there are all different ways to look at it. And when you think of interns and that interns are paid, I remember that discussion, and it was about the idea that, you know, an internship in a law firm is a great gig if you can get it, to be able to get hired and make the big bucks someday. And people were willing to do that free forever. But what that meant was that only rich people could get those internships because you have to have somebody giving you money to live. And so the idea of paying internships means that a much more diverse group of people can apply for those jobs, which is great. So I made this an informational item on purpose because I feel like we do have to talk about it more. And I feel like it's an ongoing issue. And I feel like we're not ready to say an exact course of action. If I was going to plot a course of action, what I would say is to write a letter saying that we think these people ought to be paid more. And we ought to figure out a way to pay them more based on the value of the work that they do in our society. And we should start that discussion with you know, our leaders, our assembly people, and even the governor's office, because it is a statewide issue. Maybe we could do something on a county level. I don't know that. I'm not 100% sure that we can't. So it may be that we could write a letter, a very general letter to the Board of Supervisors and say, hey, we think these people ought to be paid more. And we don't have to specify that it has to be this or that. But it just seems that, you know, when you're talking about dollars per day or $1 a day or $2 a day, it seems that there ought to be something commensurate with an hour, maybe, rather than a day in terms of a dollar. So that's how I came to this issue, and I really appreciate it that we are discussing it. Yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody. And if we want to do something at another meeting, we can present a path forward if we can decide on what that would be.
Well, I guess that's kind of what I wanted to understand. So my understanding of so insofar as I heard a desire for a letter directed to the state, to our legislature and executive, and then also the possibility of a general letter to the board to consider, you know, if not specifically to minimum wage, because maybe there's some question mark about whether that's the exact right number, but to acknowledge the value of the work and for the board to quantify that in line with however they want to quantify it. I am mindful of our budget cycle and the timing of it and our commission cycle. And so what I'm trying to understand is how we get an action. So if there were to be letters from commission, that would be an action. Is that right? Do we still have Craig? Do we need to take an action as commission to send a letter?
If you're sending a letter to the board as a recommendation on behalf of the commission, then yeah, that would be an action item.
Great.
And
Okay.
yeah, and also I think our letters go to the board. I don't think we send letters to the state government. I think we work through the board, and then they send the letter to the state if they take our suggestion.
Is that right?
Do you do that, Nicholas? So we went through. I've been on some other county boards, and that's what we were told, that you go through the Board of Supervisors directly.
So
I don't know.
yeah, through the chair, as an advisory board to the Board of Supervisors, that would make sense. I would need to go back and look at the founding resolution for created the commission to understand what the board's intent was for this body. More confidently.
So regardless, so a future action, like a future step would be an action item at this body, whether that's a letter just to the board, potentially like language. Sam, I'm so sorry. Could you go on mute?
Sam, do you mind?
Happens to me all the
muting?
time. Sorry, just trying to go through it, but I failed. it sounds to me like we're, either whether or not we're allowed to communicate directly with the state as a commission, even if we wanted to recommend that the board communicate with the state, it would be an action item at our commission with some language that we would sign off on, which sounds fine. I think all I'm mindful of is the timing, because I know like I do think that public budgets are they're hard. They are really in some ways hard to change after the fact. And so and it will take a little time to figure out what course is possible and preferred. But as we do that, we have a 2-year locked budget. Is that right, Nicholas, that there's no revisiting from fiscal year to fiscal year on the 2-year cycle?
No, that's not true.
Oh, it reopens? Okay. So, I mean, I think to the extent like it would take some time and a policy decision at the board level, it sounds like is what we would be asking for. Will there be, will the department be, and this is bleeding into the next item, I'm sorry, but will the department be going before the board in June?
That's correct. That will be June, end of, I can give you the specific dates during the next item, but the week of June 21st will be the recommended budget hearings.
Oh, hearings. So if we had an action item at our next commission, that if it's relevant to the budget conversation, that could tail, like the recommendation from this commission would tail into the budget hearing. Is that right?
Commissioner, that is correct. If this body took an action in early June at your next regularly scheduled meeting to say send a letter, that could be transmitted by the time the June budget hearings are held.
Okay, great. So then what I'd like to ask our chair, beloved chair, is if we can plan to calendar an action item on this front. And then Commissioner Manna, you expressed interest in working together, and I would sure love to work with you and work on the language of the letter that we bring. And I'd much rather have a group sentiment than an individual one. If you'd like to do that, I don't know. I know we don't have a subcommittee on this issue per se, but insofar as it's relevant to the budget, that's the subcommittee I'm on. And so, I'm happy to work on that with you between now and June.
Sam, maybe he's muted. Anyway, that seems like a reasonable way forward. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for all the time and for putting this on our agenda.
No, thanks. This is great. We should do more of this.
Oh,
Justice.
I think somebody else go next. Okay. We used all kinds of airtime.
Okay, so it's getting late, but let's move on to our discussion of the budget. Do you have a presentation for us, Nicholas?
I do. Janeth, would you be able to please pull up the budget PowerPoint, please?
I sure can, sir. Hold on just 1 second.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much. Let's see. Do you see that up there now or no?
I can.
Okay, let me go ahead and presentation view and let me know once you see it. There you go. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Give me 1 second. Let me just move my screen here. All right. This will be a budget presentation on our fiscal year 21-23 budget. As a reminder, the San Mateo County Parks Department is comprised of over 16,000 acres of land. We have 23 parks shown on this map. However, recently we have assumed management of the Cal Purisima Coastal Trail, which is just north of Tenitas Creek Beach. And so that would be number 24. And so we're responsible for all day-to-day operations of these facilities. Next slide, please. So a schedule of kind of our process here, start to finish. You'll recall there was a presentation at the last meeting where we talked about from a high level perspective where our budget was going. One thing I'd like to point out, and since then we've been able to work through a fair amount of detail. Something I would like to point out, on April 19th, we will be holding our second, so first, April 5th, budget, the recommended budget deliverables are due to the county manager's office. So on Monday, we'll be submitting the recommended budget deliverables. However, on the 19th of April, we'll be holding our second CMO budget meeting with the county manager's office. And that will be to work through and discuss any outstanding matters. So information presented today is still subject to change, and just wanted to throw that out there. Next slide, please. At the mid last year, we talked about strategic priorities. And so just as a brief reminder, when the department develops its budget, it looks through these three lenses, which is how do we provide direct visitor services? How are we maintaining and modernizing our infrastructure and facilities? And how are we managing our natural resources? So that is kind of how our mission guides us and how we want to view how we appropriate funds or request funds from the board. Next slide, please. So this shows our ongoing operations budget, and you will see that in 21-22, the recommended budget calls for operations and maintenance of just over $15.6 million. We're also going to have a natural resource management budget of 1.2 and fiscal admin, visitor services, planning, and Coyote Point Marina. You'll see how we've laid those out. We will see a slight decrease in what our preliminary budget is right now for 22-23 in operations and maintenance due to some reallocation of Measure K funds and some completion of work, as well as some service charge changes. And then our natural resource management budget will have a slight change downward due to one-time grants and funding sources. So that will be, this is a high-level overview of what we're looking at from 21-22, 22-23 perspective. Next slide, please. So this slide, what it does is it shows how our funds are being appropriated. So you'll see that a vast majority of our funds go to operations and maintenance, and this includes our field staff and how we operate and maintain our parks. And the next largest pie or piece of the pie will be our fiscal and admin, which covers our service charges and other expenses. And and then 7% will go for the Coyote Point Marina, which while factored into our budget is actually a enterprise fund. And then you'll see planning and visitor services on top of that. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to see how that changes from 21-22 to 22-23. So you'll see that it virtually stays the same. You'll see a slight change in our operations and maintenance budget, which is what was reflected on the last slide, which again is due to Measure K and some changes in our service charges. Next slide, please. This slide is going to show our capital project summary. So you can see in 21-22, what we're looking at is just over $14 million in capital projects. And a vast majority of this is working to catch up on our deferred maintenance and making sure that we're able to provide reliable and uninterrupted services to the public. So we're really putting a focus on on catching up on our deferred maintenance. And that's going to be a huge priority for the department going forward. Next slide, please. And I know I'm running through this quickly. I know it's 6 o'clock, so I'm trying to be sensitive. So here you will see how our staffing breakouts are. So the department has 77 employees. Of that, 57 are in our operations division, which are park rangers, our maintenance division, and our electrician, our carpenter. And then we have 11 in our administration. Our natural resource management is comprised of 4 individuals. Our marina has 3, and then our visitor services division has 2. Next slide, please. This is a slide showing our wildfire fuel management program and just showing a high level explanation of where the projects are located. So you'll see in orange represents where our projects are located, and they are evenly spread throughout the county. Again, our wildfire fuel management program consists of 332 acres for year 1, and 1,800 acres in total. And again, that expense over 5 years is estimated to cost just over $18.5 million. Next slide, please. And this slide will show kind of what those projects are in their chronological order based on how they ranked and what the project estimate cost is. Again, these costs show the treatment and retreatment cost over a 5-year period and assume that work will be done by a contractor. Next slide, please. So again, the schedule on Monday, the department will submit its recommended budget deliverables to the county manager's office. And then we will have a conversation on April 19th to finalize any outstanding matters that may be that may occur. And then we will go to the Board of Supervisors the week of June 21st for budget hearings. So, so that's a breakout of the remaining process. Now, in June, there will obviously be an item that the commission just put on the agenda regarding use of California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation work crews. So we would add that to this timeline here as that will possibly impact the budget. And that is our high-level overview all before 6 p.m.
Right on. I have a couple questions. If anybody else has any questions, go before me though. Does anybody else have any questions?
I have 2 quick questions. On the capital projects list, is that capital projects requested or those were approved through the Public Works pipeline you talked about last time?
We are still waiting for word on the pipeline.
Okay, and then the bottom line of the budget, like what everything adds up to for each of the 2 years, is that number provided to you, like as a bottom line you need to hit? How does that work?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll use what we've done this year is we a short answer is yes. So we're told what our target is and we have to hit that.
Thank you. I know how that goes.
I can talk for days on anything, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
No,
Yeah.
that's the yes is just, I just want to know where that comes from. Thank you.
Of course.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I had 2 questions for you, Director Calderon. So one is, you talked a lot about the things that are going to be covered, right? Given kind of the budget that you have. What are some of the plan gaps or other things that are, you know, priorities that are not going to be covered as part of this this next planning cycle?
And to confirm, you're talking about kind of across the spectrum and throughout the system, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just wanted to get a better sense and understanding. I mean, I like all the things that I had seen from the fuel reduction to some of the stuff we had seen before in terms of, you know, where your investments are. I guess I just wanted to kind of understand a little bit like what's not making the cut, and I know there's still some work to do to kind of figure out, what's in and what's out, but what are maybe some of the highlights of things that are not going to make it, or you don't think are going to make the cut for this next fiscal year that you also think potentially are important?
Yeah, I understand. Thank you for the clarification. So, the first is a lot of fuel reduction. So there are critical locations where we could do more to improve public safety, to maintain community evacuation routes. And that's something that, we've put that 32 project list together, but are somewhat limited by however much money we have for that. There's also deferred maintenance, which would include the entire water distribution system at Memorial Park. It would include the entire modernization of the Homestead site at Memorial, utilities at Coyote, utilities at Huddart. The list can go on for a while, right? And what I'm really saying, I guess, is that catching up on our deferred maintenance and managing our fuel loads are extremely important. And how much I would want to do on an annual basis is obviously more than whatever we're able to do. But we are limited in staffing capacity, and we're limited in budget resources. So what we are finalizing is a 5-year capital program that will provide guidance on catching up on our deferred maintenance and how we're going to allocate future Measure K appropriations. But that's something that's still in the works.
Thank you. The other question I had was so for these next 2 fiscal years, how do they kind of match up with what we've had in prior years, right? And I guess the reason why I asked this question is because I know that for this last year with COVID, and once again, maybe I'm assuming wrong, right? But the whole tax roll and I'm assuming there have been some cuts kind of across the board. I guess I just wanted to know, in terms of the parks themselves, versus prior years, is this? I mean, are we seeing kind of an increase? Is it kind of flat? Is it down a little bit from what we saw in previous years?
Yeah. So when the pandemic first hit, the county put on a hiring freeze and then asked each department to go through a 5% reduction exercise, later implemented. So for parks, we had to go through a 5% reduction of our budget, and so we satisfied that by we no longer have an assistant director. We're 1 ranger short in the field, and we're 2 rangers short in our maintenance division. So that's how we were able to satisfy our 5% budget cut. So we are seeing we're seeing an increase in users, we're seeing an increase in obligations, but we had a recent reduction in staffing, and we're holding at that line. So no further reductions were asked of this year. So we're staying flat.
Got it. So then 5% versus kind of prior years, but all in all, it's kind of where it's been, at least for the last couple months. Got it. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. Couple of super quick questions. What is visitor services? Isn't everything we do a visitor service?
It's funny, Commissioner Merrilees. So that's Catherine Wright and her team, her interpretive team. And it's funny because if you ask her, she would tell you the same thing, and she doesn't like the expression visitor services. So we've been talking about changing that, but have not gotten around to doing that just yet.
Okay. And Coyote Point, you have that in your budget. That's an enterprise fund, right? So
the marina,
the money that comes in, put it in the budget and then give it back, or why is?
Are you talking about the marina?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all that money's it's the marina itself is managed by the department and falls under our reporting obligation, and so that gets rolled how we report our budget.
But do you put general fund money in?
Money into it, and we don't take money out of it.
Okay. Great. Hey, that's it for me.
Well, I have one last comment, which is
Okay.
you should do whatever Catherine wants.
Yeah, we're continuing to advance those conversations.
Thank you. It's amazing what you do. Thank you with what you have.
Thank you.
Time for commissioner reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
Chair Mealy, I know that we're a little bit late on time, but you should probably invite public comment on that agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, does anybody have a public comment on the budget? I guess not. Okay, does any commissioner have anything to report? Okay, no.
Well, I guess just one thing on the, it's actually, it is on our work plan, I think, is the piece about reporting out to the board. At our last meeting, I think we had Supervisor Pine here when Commissioner Laguna was seated, and he had, we talked just briefly about that report, and he said to reach out through the department to calendar. So I'm, we were kind of planning to do this earlier. I think like when it was more of a transition, I'm still happy to do that presentation. I think the most challenging part will be the board's calendar. And Nicholas, I'm sorry to put anything on your plate, but that was his suggestion, was to work through the department. So
Yeah.
Whenever we can get you a slide deck.
Yeah, Commissioner, if you, what we can do is work offline. I can provide a list of when the board meeting dates are. And then if you can let me know when whoever is going to give the presentation can put together a PowerPoint, we can go ahead and work and get that on the board agenda for a time that works for whoever's presenting.
Okay, help with that, Nicholas, if you need me to try and help.
Thank you, Jana.
Thank you.
I don't mind helping presenting with Commissioner Green also.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more commissioner reports? Okay, now it's items for a future agenda. For the future agenda, does anybody have anything they want to put on the agenda right now, or? I've got a couple, and that would be an action item on our last discussion, some sort of letter. That would be one, and the other one was something that Sid wanted to talk about. Sid Young, who was here and before, she wants to talk about the possibility of creating a community center on the coast using a parks mitigation fund that is a building fund that people pay into, and she wants to talk about that. So that's a long-term issue. I hope it doesn't get bumped off the agenda again, but those are the kind of things that always get pushed to the future. And it would be nice to actually talk about something like that, kind of a long-term future.
I had a question about that. Was she talking about doing like that she would present, or we would have the department present on this?
I think she has created a PowerPoint. We can present too, but she has a little PowerPoint that she wants to present, and I think it'll probably just be a few minute presentation. She sent the PowerPoint. It looked fine.
I guess to hear that, I know all my questions would be about like to the department and putting it in context.
Yeah.
So Nicholas, I don't know, we've never, or at least since I've been, we haven't had like a member of the public present that way. So would you prefer the department coordinate or just treat it like a listening session? Like how would it be beneficial for operations?
Yeah, Commissioner, I defer to Chair Merrilies on how he'd like to structure it, and the department will kind of mold around how it is that will be, and will be available to answer questions that may come up.
I'll help her with it, and I think we'll make it very short, and it's a long-term thing. There isn't a lot of money in that fund, but it would be nice to have the discussion kind of just generally about how to move forward on that if it's possible. So I'll make sure she keeps it really short, and I could help her with it.
Do we want to couple it, since it's that's coast side issue, right? Like with some of the accessibility, or I guess we were really talking about like welcomingness and lack thereof.
Yeah. Yeah. This is almost the opposite of that.
Yeah. Well, it might be nice to hear them on the same meeting then.
But that's another thing we need to have on the agenda. Social equity and welcoming people to our resources that don't necessarily live right next door to the resources. So maybe that would be a good thing to put on the same.
Be nice to hear both perspectives, maybe.
Okay. And if anybody has any other ideas about what they want to put on the agenda, just contact me between now and then, and we can work on that. And if that's it, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Okay. Anybody second?
Second.
I would only add, Commissioner, that you don't actually need it. You don't need a motion to adjourn.
It's just, I know, we're just, yeah. It's
Thank
not
you.
gonna end. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. That was a great meeting.
Thank you.
Hey, is this meeting available online somewhere? Do you?
Right now, no, it will be. We'll
Probably have it available tomorrow or so. I'll put it on the website and I'll send you a link when it's available.
Actually, this is Carla. Can I just add that the link for the recording actually ends up on our YouTube channel in about a week or so.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carla. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Talk to you later.
Bye.